In November of 2019, Tesla held the unveil of their long-awaited Cybertruck. For more than 2 years, Elon Musk, the Tesla charismatic and often controversial CEO, had been teasing the project. His hints indicated that Tesla was working on a radical, futuristically inspired truck design that was going to shake up the world of the American pickup truck market. While the unveil was highly anticipated by Tesla enthusiasts, there was another group that was quietly keeping an eye on the project. The competition, the big three: Ford, General Motors, and Dodge. You see, since the global financial crisis, the big three had been gradually letting go of their smaller vehicle businesses so they could focus on the more profitable SUV and truck business. The thinking was that if there was one thing that the Detroit old guard did well, it was making big vehicles, and the big vehicle they made best was the pickup truck. America is one of the few global markets in which pickup trucks represent a large and profitable segment of the auto market. And American pickup truck owners tend to be brand loyal, often inheriting their brand preferences from past generations. This combination of factors meant that it didn't make sense for non-US companies to invest heavily in pickup trucks, so the big three faced relatively few competitors for that segment. The pickup truck business was going to be the one major segment of business that they could rely on no matter what. But then all of a sudden, something unexpected happened. A new American auto company had emerged, and it had decided it was going to see if it could beat the big boys at their own best game. Tesla was going to build a pickup, and they were saying it would be better than the best. It hadn't gone unnoticed in Detroit that Tesla had begun to take significant market share in the small but highly competitive market of luxury sedans and SUVs. It hadn't gone unnoticed that Tesla was the first American car company to successfully survive against the big three in almost 100 years. And it definitely hadn't gone unnoticed that Tesla looked like it was starting to figure out how to mass produce cars profitably. These were all things to send shivers of worry into the boardrooms of Detroit as the world waited to see if Tesla had a chance to steal their golden goose. And then this happened.
Tesla breaks the unbreakable. Shares are falling after a disastrous reveal of its latest vehicle. It's called the Cybertruck. Things started to go wrong when Tesla tried to prove the truck's windows were made of, quote, unbreakable glass.
Oh my God. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
It's a good job Elon's reaction was beeped out there, because you heard his naughty laugh. That wasn't meant to happen.
It was not meant to happen. It's interesting looking at the car itself because
it's ugly.
You
can say it.
It's pretty ugly.
It's ugly.
It's not like your usual pickup.
Yeah, now you make a great point there. I do think this appeals to the hardcore Tesla fans. I'm not sure your ordinary contractor that's going about his business is going to potentially purchase this.
The market does not see this as a mass market car. They're seeing this. This isn't really about the broken glass. This is about the missed opportunity when it comes to the pickup market in the US.
Now, if you're a Cybertruck reservation holder, the broken glass was nothing more than a funny mishap on an amazing truck, and you figured, it'll get worked out in the next couple of years. But it likely had a very opposite effect on the competition. They saw those broken windows as proof that Tesla wasn't going to be a threat. Their initial reaction may have actually sealed their fates because of something called a cognitive bias. The term cognitive bias has come to be associated with a lot of negativity, but it's actually just a tool that our brains rely on in order to make decisions quickly. The reality is that if we actually needed to think through every decision we made in a day, we'd be paralyzed. A bias is a form of a mental shortcut that allows us to get on with our days. Having biases are unavoidable, but it's important for us to be aware of how our biases can actually get in the way of us understanding and interpreting the world around us in an accurate way. The unfortunate thing for the big three is that the broken window played on two very powerful cognitive biases of the human mind. The first one is confirmation bias. That's the tendency for us to view new facts or information in a way that confirms our existing viewpoint or a viewpoint that's favorable for us. The second bias is called an anchoring bias. That's our tendency to rely more heavily on the first piece of information we get about a subject rather than on subsequent information that may actually be better or of higher quality than the original information. Before Detroit could recover from their collective gasping and giggling at the preposterously designed pickup truck, that window broke. And then the next one broke. And suddenly the big three breathed a collective sigh of relief. I mean, they'd seen all they needed to see to make them feel safe. But when the event was followed by a cascade of negative news stories, a drop in Tesla's stock price, and some hardcore trolling on Twitter, Detroit knew they were safe. Their stranglehold on the pickup truck market was secure, at least for now. But that night, Detroit got a lot of other things wrong too. They assumed they had plenty of time to adapt to the future. They assumed, like most of us, that the world would look the same in March of 2020 as it did in November of 2019. They assumed they'd be able to keep their electric R&D budgets chugging along so that when a legitimate electric truck contender finally showed up, they'd have an answer for it. They assumed Tesla would continue to struggle with profit and manufacturing bottleneck. They assumed that the rollout of the Tesla Model Y would have the same kind of production issues and quality problems that had haunted the early days of the Model 3. They assumed that Tesla would continue to struggle to create positive cash flow and that any significant misstep might very well put the electric upstart out of business. They probably even speculated that those two broken windows on the truck disguised as a triangle that night might just be the kind of event that would send Tesla to the same ash heap of history that had been the fate of every other American auto startup over the last 80 years. The odd thing is that within 24 hours of the apparent debacle, with a single tweet from Elon Musk, there was already evidence that virtually everyone had made the wrong conclusions about the event. In hindsight, it turned out that the broken window and the awkward humiliation of Elon Musk on stage is just the kind of thing that creates viral video sensations. The world couldn't stop watching, but after a while, they stopped focusing on the window and started thinking about the truck itself. It also turned out that the shocking aesthetics of the vehicle had an odd way of growing on people over time. Pretty soon, the orders started to pour in. The unfortunate problem for the big three is that the force of cognitive bias allowed them to view the Cybertruck as a failure long after its success had become obvious to everyone else. And now today, just 5 months later, the world is a different place. The wiggle room they thought they had is gone, and any ability to deal with the Cybertruck is slipping away. It turns out there's no resources to build for the future when you're fighting for survival, unless you've built your whole company on fighting for survival and building for the future at the same time. Okay guys, I'm still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you like the video and want to support the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification button. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.